Hello.
Hey, it's me, Ben, again.
Hey, Ben. Alright.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm all set. So just kind of take us through what happened, and let me interject here and there, but otherwise, have at her.
Okay, perfect. How should I start this? Just the date and all that kind of stuff, or?
Oh, yeah, even if it's just approximate.
I think it was Saturday, the 7th of June.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, so, yeah, we're, me and the kids and the wife were out bear hunting for the second last week of bear hunting season for spring bear. We were south and east a little bit of Slave Lake in an area called Mitsu. A little bit, I guess, east of Mitsu. And we went down this logging road. We'd been hunting all day. We ran into quite a few things that are kind of unusual in that area, like saw 2 grizzly bears, a lot of other animals that aren't normally in there, and pretty much no black bear all day. It was just a day without any black bear in the area. So it was coming on the end of, shooting light, so it was getting late. It was getting 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. And I just wanted to check one last little area as we're driving out. We were coming back from way in, about 40 kilometers in. And as I was coming out, I've seen black bear on this one road before, so I turned in and we were going to get out and walk. We came up to the power line cut line, and it was where an old and a new power line kind of meet up. So I get out, and I thought I saw something up in the brush, or up in the center of the clearing, but it was kind of hard to tell. I thought I saw a big black ass of a black bear feeding in the grass there. So I got out and I started walking towards it. The wife and the kids were sitting in the truck, and I was just loading my rifle. I was about 50 yards away from the truck on this cut line. So I'm about maybe 10 to 15 yards off of the tree. And then I'm, still a couple hundred yards, like maybe 150 yards to where I thought I saw this black bear, and I was kind of heading uphill. And so what kind of happened was it was like the trees exploded next to me. So they all started shaking. There was just tons of movement, tons of everything. And it just instantly got my attention, and I just turned my head to look. And that's when I saw the trees kind of just open up. And it was 2 hands that were pushing the trees apart. And then I could see these 2 big dark eyes right there. And only pretty much the center of the face I could see. And there was a nose, 2 eyes, and then a forehead, and then these hands pulling apart the brush. And it had me frozen for, a second maybe, where I saw it. And then I drew my rifle in its direction, and it ran straight back into the bush, causing a huge ruckus with everything again. And then, so I'm there kind of in panic mode, like half frozen, half just terrified. So I kind of start sidestepping back towards the truck. And as I'm going back towards the truck, my wife is flashing the light at me, and she's got all the windows rolled up in the truck by this point. And yeah, like every time I would take a few steps, it would kind of just shake the tree a little bit. And like there's poplars in there about 3-4 inches wide, and it would just shake the absolute living hell out of them. And yeah, it was terrifying. And so I just kind of kept walking. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like, it was paralleling me. As I was facing the trees, it's paralleling me, and I'm sidestepping through mud and everything, not even going on the same route that I used to walk up there. I would would normally walk around the mud. Well, this time I'm walking straight out through the mud. And yeah, it took me a couple minutes to get back to my truck. And I get in the truck, and as I start the truck, we hear this big right on the roof. And I peeled out of there. We parked the truck a little further down. And, well, actually, let me stop for a second. As we were peeling out of there, we pulled around and stopped. So we're now on the dirt road, and I got out to see what kind of hit the truck, and I hear like a kind of sound. Like, it's hard to explain, hard to do it. It didn't sound like a moose, but it was kind of like that kind of guttural moose call, but different. And I looked up on the roof of the truck, and there was about a dinner-sized plate of mud with grass and everything just sticking right out of it. And yeah, so the wife, I don't want to come back here, so we just took off and left that area. But like a good description of what I saw when it was looking at me, its hands were, it was pretty big. Like its head was about as round as a basketball. And I could just see the face, but you can tell how big that is. And I was slightly uphill from it, and it was eye level with me. And the fur was kind of like a lighter auburn color with kind of blonde and everything in it. It was frizzy like my beard is. It had matted fur on its hands. You could kind of see that. I couldn't really see a great hairline on its head, if that makes sense. But what I could see is its forehead was quite large in comparison to what I was seeing. Like I could probably see a good 10 inches of its forehead. And not high, but wide. And like myself, I've got a 4 head, and this thing had like a 5 head, if that makes sense, like a little taller. What I could tell for the eyebrows, like looking back, I had to draw a little picture of it here the last couple of days just to kind of, I don't know, make sense of what I was seeing. So it looked like its eyebrows almost connected, almost like a unibrow, but it was thicker and they were kind of more pronounced. Its eyes were real dark. Underneath, it was like this brown purple color. The skin was the color of almost like a burnt leather, like a brown color, but it wasn't leathery like leather. It looked like human skin, just a different color. Its nostrils were kind of to the side and flat, not like my nostrils would be just brown. Its nose was about, I would say, 2 to 3 inches wide from what I could see in the brush. I couldn't see any lips or any mouth or anything like that. It was just all eyes is peeking at me through the trees. And I've hunted a lot, and I've never been scared like that. Every bit of hair on my body was standing up. It was the most I've ever been threatened without being charged. Like, I had a couple charges from little black bears or, black bear, mom and cubs type thing me and my kids ran into just 15 yards away. And she stood up on us, and I wasn't even as scared as it was this time. When I drew the rifle on it, it was as if my body was reacting to shoot. But I was in such a panic mode, I wasn't pulling the trigger to shoot. I had my finger on the side of the rifle, and I was pressing in as hard as I possibly could on the side of the rifle. And I didn't realize this until I got into the truck, and I was kind of looking at my finger as I'm driving down the hill, like trying to think of why does my finger hurt. And I could see the kind of stippling on the side of my rifle imprinted on my finger.
Okay.
Yeah, it was terrifying, but at the same time, it was like just more, it was both terrifying plus a shock, but it was a different experience, like a really different experience. I've got no problems in the bush at all. I'm usually not scared, not really shocked at anything I see. In that area, I know it pretty good. we worked doing a power line up that way, so I was in that area. I did the power line foundations. I did some of the clearing. I built the towers, and I helped with a whole portion of this job. So I was in that area for a long, long time. Plus, I've worked out there in a long time ago when Slave Lake caught fire. I did some of the rebuild, and I've driven up that road. We went like wolf hunting out there. We've went before. Deer hunting. Almost every year we go there. I've taken a few guys out moose hunting out that way. A whole bunch of stuff, but nothing was ever. I can't even explain it. It was totally different than anything that I've ever experienced before in that area. My heart was racing harder than it's ever raced. And it was just a quick encounter, like probably start to finish, it was only a few seconds. Like looking at it was probably only 2 or 3 seconds. Walking back to the truck as I'm walking and it's shaking the trees, that was probably about 2 minutes, probably about 50 yards or so. But every time I would take a step, say 2 steps, get my foot where the first foot was basically, it would shake those trees, the poplars, the little kind of, all the undergrowth there was just being disturbed. Everything was being shaken up in that area. And it was something that I won't forget ever. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, that is really crazy. So when it was looking at you, did it have like any expression like in its face, like on its brow or anything like that? Could you discern any expression at all?
I couldn't really tell if there was any real expression. I just saw big wide eyes, and kind of where we would have the whites of our eyes, it was like almost like a purple color, and then where the eyelid would actually start, it was kind of like a darker brown, getting closer to the black kind of shade, just for the eyebrows or eyelids. Sorry, it just wide eyes looking at me, just opened it up, and its eyes were wider than mine. I'll tell you that.
And did the eyes move at all, or were they kind of just like dead set on you?
Just dead set on me.
Yeah. And
as soon as I like even started my motion to turn the rifle on it, is when it went straight back. And yeah, like
yeah, man, that's crazy.
It didn't charge me like if it was.
No.
You know what I mean?
But it did seem like it was maybe intimidating you. Hey, like, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
I think.
And like you said, what do you think about what you had initially seen?
Looking back on it, I don't think it was a grizzly bear at all, a black bear at all. I think when we came in there, because we came in there pretty quiet, it's kind of a sandy area. So we just kind of rolled up right to the corner where it meets, and shut the truck off, and I could see it was a couple 300 yards away, uphill, lots of a little bit blowing wind, and I saw what I thought was feeding there. But looking back on it, and then going back to that spot and seeing, there was black bear sign everywhere. But at the same time, I don't think I think it might not have been a black bear. I think it might have been another one that was kind of, I don't know, it was almost like this thing was trying to take my attention. If it was another animal, they would have ran away. Or say if it was a bear, they would have ran away. If it was a wolf, it would have ran away. If it was a cougar, I wouldn't have ever seen it. It would have probably, a moose. Moose make a terrible amount of noise, but it's a moose. Whitetail, they just run away. Everything just usually runs away when you kind of cross its path like that. You'll get the odd time where it's a black bear or grizzly bear, they'll stand up, look at you, and then they'll run away. Yeah. Especially if you make sudden movements and because I even said, pardon my French, holy fuck, when I saw it, and then I turned the gun, so it was like, I see it, I'm like, holy, and then I turned the rifle at it, and that's when it ran. Like it was that quick of a sighting, but it was just enough just to see its eyes and its hands and everything. Like even its hands, its fingers, they're pretty thick. So I know I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but they looked as thick as a small Red Bull can, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not quite as thick as that, maybe, but thick and round. And its fingernails, you could see the fingernails, and they all looked like an ingrown toenail. So if you've ever seen one of those, they kind of curl underneath the skin, and the skin kind of curls up around them.
Yeah.
Well, that's what each fingernail looked like that I could see, and I couldn't see any thumbs. It was just like it was holding the tree open to kind of let me know what, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
And my attention went from what I thought was a black bear up there to it. So now that looking back on it, I don't know if I was walking up on one of its young, or it could have been a black bear, but I'm more leaning towards I was walking up to one of its young, just maybe sitting down or something. Because even the direction that I was heading, I could no longer see it, but I knew it was just over the hill.
Yeah.
So my plan of attack on this animal was to crest the hill and judge if it was shootable, or, and make my plan from there. But I never made it up to the top of the hill to take a good look at it.
And what was your wife's side of the story? She had seen something as well, and she had something to say.
Yeah. Well, she's looking directly at my back, but we were parked kind of just the nose of the truck onto the kind of the cut line.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on the older section of cut line. The newer section of the power lines goes on one side. The older power lines are on the side that we're parked on. So it would be new would be on the left-hand side. The old is on the right-hand side. And we were parked just on the tree line and into the cut line. Like just with the nose of the truck, maybe as far as her window, so she could look at what we perceived to be a bear.
Mm-hmm.
So what she's visually seeing is me walking away from her, like, walking around the mud, all that kind of stuff, and heading up this little hill. And she said what she saw was trees from about 40 to 50 feet towards the truck, but behind me at this point, rush and start shaking around all up to the tree. And she said she saw a big dark mass kind of crouch over and then just look at the trees. And then she saw me see it, and then I turned the gun on it. And then that's when, she said she saw nothing but the back of the trees like explode almost with it running kind of backward.
Mm-hmm.
She got an okay look at it, not any legs or anything like from hearing from her. It was just the shape of it kind of in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
She said it was wide. She said it was about as wide as, she said it was me and her standing shoulder to shoulder. It would have been wider.
Jeez.
Yeah, and like I'm not super big or anything. I'm 5'10". I'm 200 pounds. I've got big, broad shoulders, but for something, to be that much wider than me and that much bigger than me, and looking at me, like I was uphill a little bit. I say I'd be about maybe 3 feet taller than it, and it crouched over, from what she was saying, to be eye level with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's not much for animals that I've seen that are like that and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what she saw too was when it ran back, I had when I started kind of sidestepping back towards the truck while still pointing at the trees, I'm terrified. So she's flipping the light in the truck, trying to get my attention, and my attention was not leaving the trees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like making my way back to her. The creature in the trees is just shaking the hell out of each tree. And as I'm coming closer to the truck, I'm actually, the way that I have to walk, I'm getting closer to the tree line too.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of stopped following me, not right in line with the truck, but kind of maybe 15 yards into that thick brush. And then I get into the truck, and then that's when we hear that big on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And we peeled out of there. We got out of there pretty quick. We stopped a few hundred yards down the dirt road to check. And she heard the sound too, and she was the one that commented, it sounds like a moose. And I was like, that's not a moose, because it was different. It was like a moose will give you like a grunt, Well, this was like a prolonged grunt but quieter and like not that sound, but like more of a ooh. Like I don't like an ooh with a kind of a little hiccup at the end, and it was just so strange. It was a pretty surreal experience. I'll say that. She could give you a good. She described the color just as good as I could, but she saw it kind of from side on. And what her description was like it was almost the same color as the grizzly bears that we saw earlier that day, like that kind of chestnut auburn color with the blonde in it. Yeah. But she said it was a lot darker on the underfur, if that makes sense. Like it was like it had hair, and then it was almost like it had hair again underneath, but it was a darker color, and it was different than, like, I know for sure it was different than a grizzly bear would be, because it wasn't matted, it was matted. It was as thick as my beard would be, and not like a grizzly bear's fur would be, if that makes sense. Like grizzly bears tend to have long, straight fur. This was just every direction.
Yeah, just like matted hair. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, it needed a haircut, that's for sure. But its eyes were thick. Like, I still remember them. They weren't quite black, but they were dark. Like, I can't even describe it. It was just these bigger than toonies or loonies, you know. I'm looking at stuff in the truck to kind of compare it to, you know, those Pure Life tea bottles, or the bottles of tea with the big black lids.
Yeah.
It was slightly bigger and rounder than that. So that's
like bigger than the bottle?
No, bigger than the cap? The cap, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, like, so like an inch or two.
Golf ball sized eyes, slightly bigger.
Yeah.
And wide open at me. And there was no real white, although you could see like a bit of red and like kind of like a purple color. Like it keeps going back to the purple color, but that's what I was focusing on, was eyeballs.
Yeah.
And nostrils. And the nostrils too, they were, so looking at the nose, it's, you know, 2 inches kind of wide at the base, but then I could see the nostrils, and they're about as long as my thumbs to the side too. So if you were to put your 2 thumbs, kind of point them straight out and put them together, that's how big its nostrils were. Like they were as big as my 2 thumbs on its face. So they were like, it was big. Yeah. It wasn't sticking away from its face. The nose wasn't. It was kind of pushed down, kind of where the eyes are, and then it was more of a flat nose. It wasn't turned up like a pig or anything like that. It was a nose. It just went, as soon as it came to the tip of the nose, it widened right out to about 2 or 3 inches, and they kind of flattened down, and then you could see those nostrils just kicking out to the side there. And yeah, like I got it. The whole picture that I was looking at on its head was 8 to 10 inches, and then fingers. But that 8 to 10 inches was, you know, nose, eyes, and a little bit of forehead. And it was at that point of the day where you still have a lot of light, but not, it's just, you've got just a few, you know, maybe half an hour left of light.
Yeah.
And I got a pretty darn good look at it. The way that I was looking at it, the sun would have been setting. So I'm looking at it straight on. The sun would have been setting to my right and then beyond the trees yet. So we still had a lot of light. The sun wasn't in my eyes, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. I had a darn good look at it. It was big.
Yeah, sounds like it. Basketball-sized head isn't small.
No, exactly. It's, you know, it had me pretty nervous. I don't know if I have like a morbid curiosity, but we went back there and we checked that spot. My wife was pretty pissed off at me, but
yeah,
she's like, "I'm not getting out of the truck." Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, well, I am.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you see something just about as big as the truck in the bush like she saw, I don't blame her.
So when when I went back in there the following weekend, this past Father's Day weekend, we went up for the last day of bear hunting, and we went fishing with the kids, all that stuff. But my curiosity was like bringing me in there. We saw bear tracks in there. I saw tons of deer tracks. I saw whitetail tracks. I didn't really see anything that looked like a foot, a human foot. I did see something that was a little different. So it was almost as if a hand with thumb that was as long as the first index finger, but you couldn't quite define the fingers. You could tell that there was something there. It was kind of pressed in the ground, so it could have been a foot. And it was right where I had seen what I thought was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed kind of what it was picking away at or eating. There was a bunch of when we tore up that area there, you mulch all the trees. So sometimes you'll get like the odd big chunk. So you say it's about 2 feet long, 3-4 inches wide, whatever, but it's rotten wood at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But something had torn up in the rotten wood, and it looked like it could have been eating the bugs. So there was that there. And then all the foliage was stripped off of a few of the smaller trees a few of the smaller bushes in that spot. Like, not a leaf left on it, but at the same time, a lot of the bark was peeled off too. So there was that. And then as I start kind of walking back, I didn't feel scared when I went in there the second time. Like, it was weird. I thought I'd be terrified, but it just felt like I was walking through the brush anywhere else. So I walked down to where I had started my walk back to where whatever it was scared me in the trees. And then I come across the mud that I kind of had to walk through. And I noticed it was like it had all been kind of pulled back, like something was digging at it, but like a bear will just scoop a spot and kind of scoop another spot here. This had like almost like a perfect circle kind of brushed back. It was like not mounded, but like kind of swept back nicely, and then the water had pooled in the inside, and you couldn't really see any tracks or anything because, like I said, there's a lot of mulch in there. So you do see the odd track. There was a lot of indents, and it had been used. That area had been used quite a bit. I could clearly see my tracks from the previous weekend still, even though the rain had hit.
Yeah.
But, it knocked out the track itself, but it didn't knock out the impression. I'm 200 pounds, give or take about 15 pounds. And I was sinking into the mud a little bit, okay? Just a wee bit here and there, or not the mud, but the mulch and all that ground. I was sinking in maybe about an inch, but you could clearly see where the bears had been sinking in, some up to about 2-3 inches.
Mm-hmm.
But there was other tracks in there that I couldn't quite, I've never seen ones like this before. Somewhat elongated, somewhat wide, not like a foot, like a human's foot, but it has some of the qualities. But they were into the ground close to 4 inches, and so that was, that's one thing right there that was kind of had my tackles up a little bit. I worked up enough courage to kind of go into the trees to see what I could see there. So we're shaking the tree when I first kind of noticed it peek at me, and then it ran back. So the way that what it had to run through was ridiculously thick brush. It was the first thing, like all the underbrush. So we had about 15, maybe 20 yards of thick brush. Mm-hmm. And then it had poplars and spruce. Immediately after that, it was just poplars and spruce. So I'd say it went kind of small shrubs, thick brush, and then the poplar and shrubs with the thick brush kind of in it. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't imagine running through that stuff. Not only that, when I went in there, there was a lot of tore up sticks and stuff. There was a lot of branches down on this one pine tree that I came to. It was about 6 inches round, and this is like coming back more towards the truck where we had parked. So probably from about a foot above my head maybe close to 7 feet anyway. So every branch had been pulled down, so broken, and then not just broken, but tore down from the tree like it had been limbed. And you could see the bark was peeled downwards and then torn off. So it was fresh too, because it was all, the tree was still all, it was all sappy and kind of bleeding, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it did that right to the ground. So there's, 20 branches or maybe 15 branches that are all tore up like that. And then all the ground in that whole area was all pretty disturbed. So like all those little ferns were pushed right over. Yeah, that was a little scary, I guess. Not kind of, my hairs weren't up like they normally or like they were the following week or previous weekend. But it was, nerve-wracking. So we just went out, got in the truck, and left again. I got scolded by the wife. How stupid are you going in the bush right there? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was pretty sketchy.
Did you ever tell, because your kids were in the truck with you, did you ever tell them what you thought you saw? Because I know you were saying they were really scared because you and your wife were kind of freaking out as well. And
I never told them directly what I saw. I know they heard me and Frankie talking about it. Like when I said to Frankie, I think that was Sasquatch. She's like, "Oh, it could have been Wendigo," and then I laughed. But really, on the inside, I was kind of like, "What in the holy hell was that?"
Mm-hmm.
And the kids were in the back seat. They're like, "You saw Sasquatch? We saw Sasquatch." Ha ha ha. Like it was kind of a joke after that. You know what I mean? I was trying to like brighten up the atmosphere a little bit, but
yeah.
So that's kind of what they kind of saw. I don't know if they really saw it or if they just saw the terror in Frankie and then me kind of weasel my way back to the truck. And that was definitely the longest it's ever taken me to cover 50 yards, I'll tell you that. Like, it felt the longest.
Yeah.
But I can't get out of my head that when I had taken my rifle and I pointed it in its direction, my body wanted to shoot. My brain was still like, what in the total hell is that?
Yeah.
And every hair on my body sticking up. I just keep thinking, when I got back to the truck and we were driving out of it, I kept looking at that, my shooting finger, my index finger, and it had this stippling, like just pressed right into my finger. Like I was pressing into that rifle so hard with my hand. That's what's kind of, even now it trips me out.
Yeah, well,
if it rushed me, my finger wasn't on the trigger; it was on the side of the rifle, and for a wild animal to close the distance like that, I'm pretty good, okay? Like, I don't mean to brag, but I've been walking in the brush, and then all of a sudden, boom, monster whitetail just pops up right beside me, and bang, it's dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But this was different. Usually I can react to things.
Well, you're processing what you're seeing. You have no idea what the heck you're looking at, eh?
Yeah, this was beyond me, man. It had my brain was working overtime to try and figure out and sort through. Like, I was going through lists of animals that it could be. And the only thing I can come up with is Sasquatch. I never believed in Sasquatch ever. Like, there was a couple points in my life where, I heard stories or it caught my attention here or there. I remember when I was younger, I liked him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, now I believe in that, like, totally, and it's kind of consuming. So as soon as at nighttime, I'm looking at YouTube videos. As soon as I get home at nighttime, I'm reading something about it. It's just...
Yeah, well, you just want to learn as much as you can about it. I mean, like, that's only natural, I think. And like you were saying the other day, you already kind of want to see one again, hey?
Oh, yeah. I would like to see one, just to get an actual look at it.
Yeah.
See it more from less of the eyes and more of the body.
Yeah.
Just like its size. You know how big something is usually by seeing its head. Okay?
Yeah.
So a basketball-sized head from what I could see. And I'm not talking, I'm talking just the width of the basketball head, or the basketball, right? So however big a basketball is, I've never measured one, but so that's how wide I could see pretty well. Like I could see that 8 inches, but beyond the hands, you could tell there was more head there, and up into the brush, what I couldn't see, you could easily tell that there was more to this head. And it was the way that it was looking at me too. It kind of gave me, like, when you crouch over, your head it naturally kind of wants to upright itself, so your neck would be out. So it was kind of like that. You could tell it squared off its face as it's looking at me when the trees are opened up, right? Like, that's the thing that, what animal holds bush apart to look at you? You know what I mean? Most animals get your smell and they're gone.
No, and if they do, like a bear, even if a bear poked its head through the bush, like it just pokes its head through. It doesn't spread the bush apart, right? Like it's.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll stand up to get a good look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they can't see you, they'll just run. They'll totally just run.
Yeah.
This was different though. It wanted my attention. That's the only thing I can really say is I had no idea that it was there until all hell broke loose and I'm talking like the shrubs that he shook were, thick. So he runs back through there, and then the first tree goes, and that's poplar, thick. So it's probably 3-4 inches round, and there's ones in there 5-6 inches round, but they're all the taller trees. But as they're getting shooken, like I'm looking up, what's looking there, I'm looking kind of everywhere, and the whole treetop was shaking. Like it wasn't something that you see every day. Like I've seen a bear kind of push and shake a tree, but I've never seen an animal shake a tree, move, shake another tree, move, shake another tree, and it was going right in line with me. So every time my first foot would move, then my second foot would move to the first foot. It was like, and it was shaking the trees. It wasn't growling, it wasn't hissing, it wasn't snorting at me, nothing, just shaking the hell out of the trees. And like 30-foot tall trees, like, big trees. And
you mentioned it had ran away as soon as you pointed the rifle at it, is that correct?
Yeah, kind of like as soon as I started to turn my rifle, it backed up. And it closed 20, I would say a good 20 yards, or maybe 15 yards more, maybe 20 yards more, into the brush, like thick brush, like that, like blink of an eye. So it moved quick, and bears are pretty quick when they run in the bush. All animals are. Yeah. I know I couldn't. If it was a person, there's no way any person I've ever met could ever run through that shit that fast. And then it just stopped, and I was like, okay, what the frig? And I knew it was straight on for me because no more brush to the left or the right of me was moving. It was just straight back, deeper in the brush. And I just, it was kind of weird. I had the rifle pointed, and I was ready to shoot. I know I was because I just felt it, but I just couldn't shoot. It was weird. It was definitely a hard. Oh, I can't even explain it. It was a hard thing to process in my brain.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? I've been up close and personal, and I've seen a grizzly bear eat a black bear, like run one down. I'm talking like a 250-pound black bear getting chased by a 600-pound grizzly bear and then eaten. I've seen that, 30 yards away. And I was up a tree, so I felt okay. But, yeah, I've never seen anything like this, and I've never been quite that terrified. I can honestly say that. Like, that area is thick with animals you have to know where to go, but we've seen elk back there. I've seen hundreds of moose. maybe about 1,000 whitetail we came into there. There's never huge ones back there, but it's a good spot. We saw, just with the kids, we saw wolf. We've seen coyotes in there, foxes in there, beavers, like everything that you could imagine that should be in that area is in there. And I've never seen anything like that. And also that day we saw the two grizzly bears we saw earlier that day, but that was 25 kilometers away or so. But that was enough to, I don't know, to change my mind, because I was always one of those guys like, oh, that's bullshit. When somebody would mention Bigfoot or Sasquatch or any of that stuff, like a little part of me believed it, but I was like, nah, that can't be. It's probably whatever.
Yeah,
but
well,
now,
I mean, logically, you'd think somebody would have shot one and brought it in by now. Hey, like, if you just think about it, like, oh yeah, like some hunter, if he ran into it, would have shot it. But then now that you've experienced it, like, you kind of maybe understand like why someone wouldn't have shot it, because they're just in shock. And like,
yeah,
did the face look human to you at all, like human-esque, or did it look more kind of ape-ish, or what would you say about that? Like,
I've been looking at a lot of pictures and kind of, so I looked at some pictures of gorillas. It's kind of the way that their eyes are their eye sockets, let's call it, kind of that brow ridge, and then that kind of curls down around the corner a little bit. It's kind of got that look to it.
Yeah.
But then it's also got a look that's totally different than an ape would be. I mean, like its hands were definitely human-esque, just different. Its nose was not like a human's nose. It was wider and flatter, and the nostrils were different. The eyes, I mean, give it whites of its eyes, it could be very very human, but different. It had eyelashes, I can tell you that. I didn't, but I'm looking at something that's got big angry eyes, like just wide open at me. Not like scowling, not squinting, nothing, just wide open eyes at me. Its forehead was different than a person, so I would say it had the human qualities, like in the skin, as far as what its texture kind of looked like. Kind of soft skin, But as far as what I was kind of seeing, it was definitely an ape. Like, there's no other animal. Like, bears have a muzzle, dogs have a muzzle. Cats are different. Cats are completely different. Like, when I think back, like a cat, if it was a cat, I would have never seen it. I could have been right there, or would have pounced on me. I would have never seen it or heard it. It was just, and at the same time as saying that, I don't think it wanted to pounce on me and eat me or something like that. Like, I don't think it was so much predatory. I think it was just sounding the alarm, maybe threatening me, but it wanted me to know it was there and wanted me to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I've always found that interesting, because I listen to other people's encounters and stuff, and they say similar things where, like, they just seem to be trying to shoo them off or scare them away. And it's interesting, because, like, if there's an animal that big, I mean, killing you would be no problem, right? Like, assuming it was, maybe the 8 feet that you kind of estimate it was. Like, that's a big animal. It's got to be, like, somewhere in the range of, I don't know, 700 to 900 pounds or something like that. Maybe, like, they could probably snap your neck with their fingers, right? Like,
oh yeah, like its finger was as long as my hand, but round, like, wide and round.
Yeah.
And like, I'm looking at my hand right now, and it just paled in comparison to what I'm seeing at, however many yards. It was close. It was pretty close. Like, I reach out and touch it, you know what I mean?
Jeez.
Not really, but yeah, it was
close. Yeah.
I could see it quite well. Like, I'm looking at because I'm staying in a campground right now for work, and I'm looking at my trailer, and I'm parked, 30 feet away from 30 yards away from my trailer, and I was much closer than I am to my trailer.
Yeah, too close.
You know what I mean? Like, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I've always heard people say, like, talk about the smells. I didn't smell anything. I don't know. There was no real noises it made other than when we got the hell out of there, that kind of a grunt kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I had the hiccups a little bit.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, there's not much that I could say about it other than, or like no real noises, like other than the trees just getting torn up. Like it was strange, that's for sure. And with all the fires up there, I don't know if it got pushed out of a certain area. I don't know if it just wanders around, but
there's no way to know. I mean, nobody really knows a whole lot about these things. There's a lot of speculation and stuff, but in the end, nobody really knows really much about them. So
yeah.
But no, that's. And so you said you had made a sketch, kind of what you saw.
Well, I wrote down notes of everything, and I kind of did a quick little sketch the other day of kind of just so I could visually, like, kind of run it through my head what the fuck I saw.
Yeah.
Pardon my French again.
No, it's all good.
But going over kind of like it's fresh in my mind, but still at the same time, I wanted to kind of sort my thoughts, because even now it's still like right away my brain's all over the place. The next day my brain is like, okay, what the hell did I see? So then that's when I sat down and kind of, okay, this is what I saw, this is what I was doing. I even kind of drew a little map of how I got out of the truck and where I was, all that stuff. And that logging road that I was on, it's not as busy as it was. Like, there's no more logging that really goes on there. It's just more oil leases now, or kind of stuff here and there.
Yeah.
And then the power lines that run through there. But it was a little bit of a different experience. That is for sure. Like, it was. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I've never had that feeling before. I've never witnessed anything quite like this before.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen odd things in the bush, like all sorts of weird stuff, but I've never seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, because I've experienced a lot of weird stuff in the bush, but I was never lucky enough to see what it was.
Yeah.
And, yeah, in that sense, I'm very jealous. But I don't know if I might have had a heart attack if I was that close to one of these things, who knows?
Yeah, like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Another weird thing that I saw here recently, did you know that beavers can climb a tree?
Really?
Well, I saw a beaver and it was like 5 feet in a tree.
Oh, that's weird.
It's hanging out, yeah.
That's very strange.
I was also up that way, yeah. So maybe that way up that road is just some sort of magical place. But
maybe it's trying to escape a predator or something, I wonder.
No idea. It was just kind of a weird thing to drive down, and right at the height of my window on my truck, there's a beaver in the tree.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. It was strange. It was very strange. And it was on our way out too, which is another kind of strange thing. We were on I break that kind of road up into 3 kind of general but big areas.
Mm-hmm.
There's the bottom area where I had my kind of encounter. So you go up the hill and then you kind of hit this flat spot, and then it's kind of in that area where I saw it. And then X amount of kilometers in, there's a bridge that you cross over a river. So the next section is the next hill. So it's another hill and then a flat spot, and then the river. So there's the bottom part of the river, top part of the river, and then the next one that you get into, it's the sand hills. So you get 20 kilometers in, there's a monster hill that you got to drive up, and then that goes all the way back into 40 kilometers, and then it goes So it counts. It goes from counting and it counts down because you go back to a different community on the one road anyway. And yeah, it was like I break it down into those 3 parts, and some of the parts are good for. I know where the elk are. I know where the whitetail are. I know where I would generally see a wolf. I know where the black bear kind of all like to kind of hang out. And to go up there that weekend, it was like everything was backwards, like thrown upside down. And me and Frankie were commenting the whole day, it's so smoky up here, maybe it's the smoke driving them out. And then we saw the grizzly bears, which I'd never seen up in that spot. And then we're like, oh, well, maybe the grizzly bears drove them out. If there's a grizzly bear around, the chances are there's not going to be a black bear unless it's a giant. So, yeah, like we checked out the whole area, and yeah, we didn't see much for black bear that day. We saw mom and cubs way back into the sandhill area. We spent the whole day. We probably put on about 400 kilometers in the truck.
Wow.
Plus we, like just driving back and forth, plus we walked. Man, I probably walked in maybe 2 or 3 kilometers at a time on different cut lines and back. Because I always want to get back to the right-of-way for the power line, the new power line that's in there, because it's nice, wide, it's open. Mm-hmm. It hasn't grown up to where it's ridiculously thick. Mm-hmm. It's usually pretty good. It's quite soft to walk in, but it's not the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah, it's like that kind of moss, right, on the ground. Is that the kind of stuff that's out there?
Well, it's not really moss. It's a lot of it is the mulch. It's still the mulch. Because it's like they only turned the power on that power line last year, so they finished up I think they energized it this year actually, and it was finished up. The job was finished up last year. You'll still see the odd, company truck in there from that company. I think they're doing a reclamation right now and maybe a bit of, quality control type work. Well, yeah, I'd never smoked that many cigarettes in my life either. We pulled over and I probably smoked like 20 cigarettes in a row.
Yeah, don't blame you.
It just vibrated. I remember and looking at my finger like, you failed me. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it saved you. Who knows what would have happened if you got a shot off there?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about that. And, like you pointed out that video to me or whatever, last conversation that we had.
Oh, what video was that?
With the missing 411, the one that's coming out.
Oh, yeah.
With all the hunters that go missing or whatever, so maybe that's why they're going missing. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but. Yeah,
well, and like we were talking about the other day, like there's been instances of hunters being found mangled or up in trees mangled, and their rifles are smashed to little bits, right? And I mean, what animal does that? No animal smashes a hunter's rifle to little pieces, like.
No.
And so, yeah, who knows what goes on? I mean, and like, if there was more than one of them, who knows how many there were, and I'm sure they would be angry if you shot their buddy or whatever, so.
Well, yeah, and not only that, I'm still 50 yards, a little less than 50 yards to the truck, and I can't outrun anything.
No, he was pretty useless.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't think Usain Bolt or whatever that guy's name is could outrun a bear.
No, well, especially not on real terrain, right? Like, even just walking on that terrain, I don't know about you, but, like, when I was working geology or any time I've been hunting and stuff, I mean, I swear I spend half the time just tripping over myself in the bush.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Like, there's a reason why hiking in the bush is a lot different than hiking on a trail. I mean, you've got every obstacle to worry about. Yeah. Plus, you don't know if you're going to step over a log and into a hole that's nothing but mud or soft.
Yeah.
There's not much for even ground in there. And, like, in the spot that I kind of turned into, last year I went into that exact same spot. And I crested that hill where I thought I had seen the bear, where it was possibly something else, but I crested that hill, we were whitetail hunting. It was just when season first opened up. Like I was out there bow hunting, and then rifle season opened. So then I'm going with the rifle. So at the top of that hill, there's these two water attached basins because that area is pretty wet, and they're there to take in a lot of the water, so keeping it away from the foundations of the power line tower. And so I've used that before in the past, and that was kind of my plan, was to get to that those two black, catch basins, let's call them, and to set my rifle up on that and use that as a nice flat shooting surface to kind of get a really good shot on a bear. And I thought I was only going to be 50, 60 yards from the bear by the time I shot. Not even. I was probably going to be 40. Like, I'm thinking it was a bear, but now thinking back, I don't think it was a bear at all. But I don't know, that experience made me a believer in more ways than one. Like,
yeah, well, like, who knows what else is out there, like one thing that's supposed to be, doesn't exist, you experience it for yourself, who knows what else is going on out there.
Exactly, like,
definitely turns your world upside down, I think, eh?
Yeah, as far as being out there. Like, I'm pretty laxy-daisy, like, even with the kids. Frankie's always constantly yelling at me, keep the kids close to you, keep the kids close to me. As long as they're in earshot of me, I'm generally pretty good. But now, they're sticking right by me from now on. I know that.
Yeah. Well, in those missing 411 books, there's a lot of kids that go missing too, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've been watching that. That's been up there on the YouTube.
Yeah, well, and then you hear about them in Canada too once in a while. Like there's one boy in Manitoba, I think a year or two ago, that was just outside on their farm just playing with toys or something. He disappeared, and they found him
in the creek on the property, but like several weeks later or something like that.
It was a few days later, I think, and they had searched the area before. All the same stuff that happens in all those missing 411 books. And so, yeah, you got to be careful. Sometimes I wonder if they're just curious about children because they're so tiny and cute and whatever, and they pick them up and take them, but they don't realize how fragile humans are, and the children, maybe they die of exposure or something, and then they bring them back and put them back where they got them or something. I don't know. Just a crazy theory I have, but because otherwise they'd probably just eat them, right? Like if they're going to kidnap them, why would they?
Well, I don't know. I've ran into animals that I thought wanted to eat me before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or could eat me. And seeing this thing, I don't think it was. I wasn't a food source for it.
Yeah. Too much work sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I could have been a threat to it. I had a big rifle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, yeah, I just remember seeing the look of fear on Frank's face the way when I got into the truck. So that wasn't the thing. And she even said to me, "You're pale right now. You're white as a ghost." And honestly, I've like half of my adult life I've been working in the bush or doing harder jobs, but a lot of it has been in the bush building power lines or, different things. I've been on every type of hunt that Alberta's got to offer. I've hunted horseback in some really thick spots, like up by Nordegg. I've went 60 kilometers into the bush, and we've hunted for, a week straight on horseback. I've done a lot of different stuff as far as hunting goes. I've hunted with my dad when I was younger in some pretty remote spots. Like everybody's got their stories or whatever, but it just threw me for a loop. You know what I mean? Like, that was pretty crazy. That's right up there with, that's something that I'll never forget. That is for sure.
Well, that's something you shared with your family too, which is kind of unique. Like a lot of people are completely alone in their experience, and they have to deal with, even their wives second guessing them and being like, "You're crazy," and I think that's pretty tough on some people. Whereas I think you're lucky to have experienced it with your wife, although your wife sounds pretty open to that stuff anyway. But
Yeah.
I mean, it can be pretty difficult on people, and I think you're lucky you have people to talk about it with, and when your kids get older, you can be like, remember that one time? Well, this is what happened, kind of thing, and I think that's pretty neat.
Well, they're used to seeing animals now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, last day of bow season, I got my moose at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was all by myself. Couldn't get anybody to come and help me, so I rushed home, grabbed Frankie and the kids, and we were out there hauling a dead moose out of the bush until, pretty late at night. So they're used to that kind of stuff now, but it's, they I don't know how to explain it. They like going out there. Even though a lot of the times when we go out there, we don't even get out of the truck. We just drive. Yeah,
it's just nice to be out in nature regardless, I think, right?
Yeah, go 4x4ing or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's a strange, like, Alberta's a strange place. It's like, sorry, I can't speak right now. I'm so thirsty.
That's all good.
Like, the geography of Alberta, it changes so much.
It does.
And like, there's everything here that you could ever want. There's big mountains. We're missing an ocean, but whatever.
Yep.
Don't have to drive very far to get one.
Nope.
No, but it's different. It's different. There's thick bush, there's prairies, there's deserts, last year I discovered a place when I was out hunting. We were just going to put a spot on a map and go hunting. So it was up in northern Alberta. We found an area that it was nothing but sand dunes everywhere.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, we drove off this logging road, and then all of a sudden we're in what looked like a desert, but it had pine trees.
That's awesome.
And it was miles and miles of this stuff, and that was a pretty neat area. We came out of there with a really nice buck. But I don't know, man. That was different. That was, part of me is pretty happy I didn't shoot. Other parts of me are like, I'm surprised I didn't shoot. And this weird little morbid part of me is like, well, darn, I should have shot.
Yeah, just to prove it, eh?
Well, not even just to prove it. It would just be like, I'm being threatened by something and I couldn't pull the trigger, and so I just pressed the holy hell out of the side of my rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like I don't know if it was a threat or an intimidation, or it was generally thinking it was going to, because this was like a thinking animal, like it had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it reacted to my reaction, but looking at me, it was sizing me up. You could tell that it wanted me to it was letting me know, hey, look at me. And it was different. It was something that's not anything that I've ever experienced before. Like, generally, something will know you're there, and they'll either hide or run away. You might have the odd bear that'll stand up on you, or the odd wolf that's a little too curious. But nothing like this. Nothing at all. Like, wild animals are typically scared shitless of you. They like to run away.
Yeah.
This one, I mean, humans are apex predators, but this thing was far above me on the food chain, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Yeah, when you're out there.
Yeah. It let me know how little I am in comparison to everything else that's out there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like, go back 10,000 years, there was elephants and woolly mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses here in Alberta, or like southern Alberta anyway. Yeah. It's like all across North America, there's animals, huge ones. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. All I can say is that this world has a lot to offer that's more than what's on the surface here, I guess.
No, it seems that way. Well, otherwise, if we didn't have all that, the world would be a little bit more boring of a place, and now it's a little bit more interesting, at least.
Yeah, like, that's definitely going to be a new passion or hobby, is to, I don't know, see if I can see it again, but just kind of figure out what it was exactly. Like, it was a Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say that because there's still some portion of me that doesn't believe, but like, at the same time as that, I 100% believe it now.
Well, yeah, of course you saw firsthand. I hope so, eh?
Yeah. Like, there's a portion of me, though, that, like, in my mind, it's like, well, I want to find exactly what it was. And then, you know, yeah, it was a strange experience, that's for sure. I've told a few people now, and I've actually had other people tell me their stories too, and it's kind of weird because, like, you know, these people, you know that they're avid hunters or fishermen or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be like, yeah, well, I totally believe you 100%, and then they'll tell you why, and I'm like, oh, heck. Like a guy that I know at work, I told him finally because his brother told him, you know, my story, and then he comes up to me, he's like, so he saw a Sasquatch? And I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, I saw one too. I was fishing, and I was just sitting on the bog. I had a pallet that I was sitting on, and then I just look across about 50 feet from me, and it came and it got out of the water and got on the land and kind of shook a little bit and walked right into the trees.
Gee.
Wasn't scared of me or nothing. That's his story, so I don't know if he's just pulling my leg or what, but that was, yeah, so it's funny to hear other people have stories. My dad's got weird stories of things that he's seen. You know, there's so many people that I think have seen something out there that aren't willing to tell or just have never told anybody.
Yeah, I think there's a good reason. Like, I hear about a lot of people who, kind of like you, like right after they're pretty excited about what happened to them, and they try to share it with, you know, other people, and they just get the crazy look, or people laugh at them and, you know, make fun of them and stuff, and so they just learn to kind of not talk about it anymore. And I think people just bottle it up generally. But I think it's better to just talk about it. I mean, sure, you're going to get, most people are going to they're generally not going to care anyways. They're just going to laugh and brush it off. But like that, you know, like I said, that 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 people will be like, oh yeah, like, you know, I had this weird thing happen, or I saw this weird thing or whatever. And I think it's good for people to share those things together. It kind of helps. It's kind of like mental support. Like, I don't know. I think it's good for people.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, and so do you want to, would you be willing to tell us kind of what your dad had told you he experienced?
Yeah, so he was, again, hunting. He's lived in Alberta since 1979. This wasn't actually in Alberta, though. This was, if I remember right, he told me that it was in Manitoba. So this would have been sometime in the 70s. They were hunting, and he was, at that time, he was operating or driving a water truck, and I think what he was doing is just wetting down roads and things like that. But it was hunting season. So I think they went out whitetail hunting, or who knows, it might have been mule deer hunting back in the day. Anyway, they were stopped for the afternoon, and they were looking down, so from a hill to kind of a flatter area, but lots of poplar, like same kind of area, thick, but not, this was a little less thick, so you could kind of see through the poplar, the pine, the spruce, whatever. But at the bottom of the hill, it was kind of a wet spot, and then it went for about 100 yards, and then it was a road, and then on the other side of the road, it was a hill. So basically what he was looking into was a small valley. And he said that what got his attention was that one of the dogs kind of were growling and kind of looking over at something. So him and a friend of his, they looked down and across, and they're searching for what they could see. And what he saw, as he described it, as like a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know when you take a bunch of hay and you tie it together, or wheat or whatever?
Yep.
And like you bundle it up in a bundle and you just leave it there and somebody comes along and picks it all up.
Yeah.
They said it kind of looked like that, but as they're looking at it, it stood up. And he's like, what the hell? And it ran up the hill. And his description of it was, it looked like a gigantic friggin' porcupine on two legs, because its fur or hair or whatever just all stood right up on end, and it just went straight up this hill. And it was like sandy, rocky hill that it ran up, so they looked at it. They looked at the footprints, and they couldn't quite tell if it was a person or anything like that, but they said it was 2 feet, and it ran up the hill.
No, that's
So
crazy.
yeah, that's his story, and like I believe my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty neat to hear some of the stuff that other guys have told me. Like, do you know where Hobima is?
Where, sorry?
Hobima?
Hobima, no, I don't.
It's kind of the native reserve north of Ponoka, south of Edmonton, and it's on the east side of the highway.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, I know the area.
Yeah, it kind of has a bad reputation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a friend of mine, that's where he's from, and he was telling me a story of seeing something, and he doesn't know if it was Sasquatch or anything like that, but
mm-hmm.
he says it was weird enough to just have him like totally floored for weeks. Mm-hmm. So they were having this big party of some kind, and it was at one of his cousin's houses, and they're all out kind of by the barn. They have this big bonfire going, and he needs to pee, but there's this little dried up kind of creek bed with a bunch of trees around it, so he decided in his drunken kind of state of mind to walk down there and to take a pee kind of in the bushes there. And he started to take his pee, and as he's finishing up, he looks, and there's somebody standing about 10 feet from him that was eye level with him. And he's like, oh, sorry, man. And then he's like, they're going to the party, and like it's dark at this point, and then whoever it was just walked off. And he was thinking that's weird, and then he went to kind of catch up with the guy to see where he was walking to, and he realizes he walks right down to the creek bed, which is like another 3 or 4 feet, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, kind of, holy shit, that guy's big. And then he ran back to the fire, and he's like, who's the big guy that's here with us? Who's the big guy? Because he wanted to meet him, see how big this guy was. And yeah, and everybody thought he was just crazy or drunk or something, but yeah, that's his story.
That's crazy.
It was pretty funny to have him tell it, because he's a giant. He's probably 6'5" and just thick, but he's probably pushing 300 pounds and a big boy. And to say that somebody was bigger than him by a couple feet, you know what I mean? That's a crazy thing to, yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy, man. Yeah, there's a guy local to around here. I got to get him on here to share his experiences. He actually thinks he might have ended up accidentally taking a leak on one of these things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're in their hunting camp, and they were just sitting around the fire at night, and he just went to take a leak in the bush, so he walked out, I don't know, like, 15, 20 yards away from the fire, just in the dark, to go pee. And I won't tell the whole story in too much detail, but he was peeing on something. He started peeing, and something started, like, kind of making a deep growl at him, and then some other stuff happened as well. So he came running with his pants practically halfway down back to the camp there. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, I'll have to get him on, and then maybe you can listen to that one too. But no, it's been great, man. Thanks a lot for doing this interview. I mean, I really want to get more people to share their experiences, because I know some people have a real hard time with it, and I think it helps people kind of process things, and it helps them realize they're not crazy, and that these things are out there. And there's just not much of it in Canada. People seem to be more tight-lipped about it here, so it's really great to get people out and talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I contacted a few people here recently, and then I don't know. They're sending me in. I've had a couple phone calls this week about this, where mostly just other people are telling me their story.
Nice.
And it's been pretty kind of eye-opening, or to hear how many people. A lot of people from BC too. Like they've called me up, stuff like that. A good friend of mine, Joseph, he lives up in Terrace. He was like, one friend tells one friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Joseph calls me and he's telling me, oh yeah, they're like, everybody in this town believes in them. Everybody. And I was like, well, do you? And he's like, well, I don't know yet. Like, I haven't seen any, but I've had enough people like talk to me and tell me that they saw something pretty, different. Or like one guy was telling him that where the Skeena River meets this other river, I can't remember the name of it, there was like a big mud bar, and they're coming down on the boat, and as they're coming around the corner on the Skeena River, there was two of them just walking right alongside the bank, and as soon as they saw the boat, they just cut up right into the brush, and then you couldn't see them again. So they had maybe a 5-second look at them, and that was good friends of his. So yeah, just to hear all those little anecdote stories,
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more people out there that have stories to be shared, that is for sure. It's good to hear people are contacting you about it too, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just when my buddies hear about it, like, gives them an excuse to call me, or me an excuse to call them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just, I don't know, it's definitely, like, Canada's so vast and so different from coast to coast, but pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know, there's just the things you see or hear, all that stuff. If anything, I would imagine that I'd be able to find one pretty quick in the Yukon if I ever went up there again.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's, I was telling you the other day, I've wondered a few times if they found me before, but I think they're definitely up there. There's a lot of encounters up there. I mean, there's the one time where it was on the news that a bunch of tourists were driving by. Supposedly one of them was eating berries on the side of the road, and all these people were driving by, like, gawking at it and stuff, and then they ended up calling the news about it.
Jeez, could you imagine that?
I know. Pretty crazy. Never happens when I'm around. No. Like, I've stumbled across a caribou in Alberta before, and that was pretty rare. I thought I was, you're out, you're on a long hunt or whatever, it's 10 o'clock at nighttime, you're walking back to your truck, and then all of a sudden, boom, woodland caribou. Only one, but it's like, holy, wow, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's crazy. You usually don't see them all that often.
I don't even, I think there's like less than 90 or something in Alberta. And
oh, really? Even up north?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
think, well, there might be more, but I know, I heard at one point there was like 96 or 92 of them.
Wow, that's a very small number.
There might be more or less, who knows?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I saw a mule deer hump a whitetail. That was pretty funny to see. That was just last year. Like, there's always something that'll either make you laugh or make you think when you run into the bush.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
like in that same area, I've seen a pretty big whitetail, not overly huge. It was a doe, and it was like something beat her up and or pushed her and twisted her all around a tree, and was like trying to tear limbs off her, but using the tree to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, so that makes me wonder now, because before I was like, oh, maybe I got hit by a car and flew into the tree, and then I'm looking, I'm like, well, that's like 100 feet from the road, so it wasn't that. Mm-hmm. And it's all eaten up and beaten up. But, yeah, like a bear would have buried it, like a grizzly, or a cat would have taken it up the tree. That was my closest guess, is a cat would have taken it up the tree. But thinking back on it now, it's like, well, what if the Sasquatch, killed it and had it kind of pulling against the tree to pull off a limb here and there, or who knows?
Yep.
Like, that could be it. I don't know, but it's quite the area, and I mean, if you were to run across a track in that area, up in some of that area, there's a lot of sand and stuff.
Yep.
And it tends to hold the track really well, especially when you get that wet and then it dries up so quick.
Yep.
I don't know. I think that would be a good place for somebody to go and start looking.
Yeah.
I hate saying that, like giving everybody my kind of hunting spot, but
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like on the weekend, I took my trail cam and I kind of placed it in a couple spots, like where I would have a long shot at down the road or whatever, just to see what's walking through there.
Yep.
I've had some trail cams up there before, and you get the range of stuff. You get the black bears and a lot of deer and moose and the odd elk, but it's certainly one of those kind of neat little areas. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
I'll have to go up there and spend a night or two up there just camping for myself one of these days just for fun.
Yeah, well, call me up before you do it, and I'll give you a good campground. There's one that it's been there for a while. It's used by a couple people during hunting season. That's about it.
Nice.
Maybe some of the locals, they use it there in the spring when they're out there doing their moose hunt, like their early spring moose hunt for some of the guys. But it's right against that kind of river valley, and you should see the tracks that go to just walk across in the mud right behind.
Yeah,
like you'll have like 50 different sets of prints.
Wow.
Throughout the week that are just walking right underneath that bridge. And yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I was driving there one time and I saw a black bear playing with a tire, because a lot of the heavy equipment, they put tires at the bridge so they don't tear up the wooden bridge.
Yep.
And they just roll over the tires. Well, this black bear was sitting laying on its back and it's playing with this tire, just having a ball. And as soon as I came around the corner, it looks at me. I'm looking at it, and then he just carries on playing with the ball, or playing with the tire.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a neat little area. There's a lot of life back there. It just
sounds like it.
You just have to know where to kind of go and look. So you're not just staying on the road. You're trying to find, I guess you're trying to find its food sources in that area.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, if you sit and wait long enough on any of those, like some of the gas pipe or the gas corridors or even the power line corridors, you'll see something if you have the patience and you just sit.
Yeah, I feel like that actually is the best kind of hunting. I mean, I've always done hiking because I just enjoy hiking so much. I usually turn hunting into hiking half the time anyways.
Yeah.
I remember one time I hiked about 20 kilometers back in one day, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing here? If I shot an elk back here, I'd never get it out of here. That's
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to hunt, though. And a lot of people think that's the way these things hunt. They'll sit on a game trail and just wait for something to come by.
Yeah.
But who knows? But yeah, no. What's that?
Part of me too is like, did these things dwell in the trees or did they move? I want to know as much as I can about them, and
I think the best way. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like nobody knows anything about them.
No, nobody does. There's all these, quote unquote researchers that say they know, all this crap about Sasquatch, and you wonder how the hell they know anything at all, because they always claim to have these like top secret research areas and all this stuff, but then they never really come out with much of anything. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of those people. And then I find the best resource is people like you who have had something happen, and that's why I really like listening to there's all kinds of shows out there, like podcasts and stuff, where people come on and share their encounters and all that. And I find I've learned the most just by listening to them. And they're very entertaining too, right? Like if you're on the road a lot, they're fun to listen to while you're on the road. So, yeah.
So is there a lot of people that you've noticed in Alberta that have a lot of stories, or?
There's more. It seems like there's more people coming out, but I don't know, man. Compared to the States, there's so many people that come forward in the States, and you rarely hear about stuff in Canada. I don't know what the deal is. I think people are just tighter-lipped about it up here, but yeah, there's a few. Just off the top of my head, I can think of a few people that I've talked to over the last few years that have had encounters in Alberta. So there's definitely people out there. It's just a matter of, I don't know, getting in contact with them, really. Like, a lot of them I got in contact through, I'm kind of like working, I'm part of the Alberta Sasquatch Organization. I help run that a little bit. I don't do much. I mean, Keenan does pretty much all the work, but I'm just kind of here to help out whenever I can. But it's after I've kind of gotten more involved with that, there's been more people coming forward recently, especially since we've gotten involved on social media and stuff like that. And I got in contact with people actually on those podcasts I was mentioning. Some people would be like, hey, like, you know, if you want to go out sometime or you've seen something, you know, give me an email. Here's my email, blah, blah, blah. And so I get in contact with those people and just chat with them a little bit and stuff. So, they're out there, man. And I know, like, Nordegg, there's lots of encounters and
I've spent a lot of time up in Nordegg, and that's a that's a pretty strange place in and of itself. Like,
I agree. It's eerie kind of out there.
And it's so old feeling, if that makes sense. Like, it's...
Well, you know the Ram Falls campground out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of stuff going on out there. A lot of people that have been camping, or not a lot of people, but we've had a couple people come forward that have camped there. One guy actually recorded some crazy noises that they were hearing at night. Like, there was these crazy sounding screams and like whooping sounds and stuff, like nothing I've ever heard before. Like, I don't even know what that would be. And there's people that have claimed like stuff was rummaging through their camping stuff at night, but would put it back the same way it was in the morning, and just weird stuff like that. So, you'll see pretty quickly the further you delve into this. It's kind of like Alice in the rabbit hole or whatever. It goes a lot deeper than you think. But man, it's really hard to pinpoint a place I want to go to, because it's, you know, like, Nordegg has known activity and stuff like that, but it's been really well gone over by a lot of people, and I mean, nobody really ever comes up with anything out there. We just get the occasional person. Like, I had a guy email me way back talking about he's fly fishing. I can't remember what the specific waterfall he was at, but he hiked up with his buddy to some waterfall up there, and basically something, is a very narrow canyon, and something was actually like throwing big boulders kind of into the water in front of them and stuff, and it kind of freaked them out, and so they left. Just stuff like that, and people hear women screaming, but you and I know that can be cougars. And even foxes. But
have you ever heard a rabbit scream?
Yeah, I have, actually. And deer will scream too.
Yeah. Oh man, I had the most brutal encounter with a deer not too long ago.
Yeah.
So, a lady hit a deer, and it was just sitting there suffering on the ground. But I felt bad, and I had my work truck, so I got out and I grabbed a big 10-pound sledgehammer, and I wanted to put it out of its misery, and just before I whacked it, it screamed. Like a terrible, terrible scream, and I was like, "Oh no!" That one was terrible. That was honest to God, that was terror. But animals have a life too, you know.
Yeah.
They like, right now where I'm working, I'm down in Red Deer. We're doing a renovation on a slaughterhouse, and it's terrible. It is, honest to God, terrible. Like, we're outside. We don't even see what's going on the inside. Yeah. But the other day, I closed my eyes, and there was a kid sitting next to me that had a vape pen, and it was cotton candy.
Yeah.
Machinery's going behind me. I smell of cotton candy and kind of gross, pukey, vomity shit smell. Yeah. And then I hear all this screaming. It sounded like a fun park. It was terrible. It sounded just like an amusement park. Kids having fun. But then you open your eyes and you're back to reality. You know, that's pigs in the background that are screaming because they're about to die.
That's brutal.
It is brutal, but yeah.
That's why hunting is nice, because at least you know the animal's had a happy life before you kill it, and when you kill it, it dies instantly, hopefully.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Like there's been the odd occasion where you walk up to the kill and it's not dead yet, so you feel bad and you just end it quickly.
Yeah.
It sure puts it into perspective though when you have to bury a knife into an animal to end it. You know what I mean? Like bleed it out quick or whatever.
I've had to kind of force some of my hunting buddies to do it before. Like one guy shot a deer and it was just sitting there with its head kind of bobbing around, and I was like, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna let it bleed out, and I was like, oh man, you better put it out of its misery. He's like, oh, I'm not wasting like $3 bullet on this thing again or whatever. And I was like, okay. So we slit its throat, but I mean, nature's brutal too. Like, if you've ever, like you said, you've seen animals kill other animals. I mean, it's not a quick, happy time. Like, when a cougar kills a deer, it'll take like a half an hour half the time. Like, it takes a long time, and these animals are just suffering the whole time. So, I mean, you got to put things in perspective. I think when a hunter takes an animal, it's a hell of a lot better than, you know, a bear, like a grizzly bear taking something down, or a, you know.
Yeah, like, well, when I was watching that black bear was tearing through the bush, like just as fast as it could. It got up to the ditch, and by the time it made it to the middle of the road, the grizzly bear closed the distance probably, I'd say 70 feet. And just in the time that black bear ran 20 feet, the grizzly bear ran 60, 70 feet and got it. Jesus. And swatted it at the ass end, and it kind of stumbled into the next ditch. Mm-hmm. And it was just at where I kind of had my blind set up, because it's two intersecting kind of, one's a pathway, and the next is this dirt road that I always see. This is actually not too far from Calgary, close to Winchell Lake. Anyway, yeah, that bear was on top of that, like the grizzly bear was on top of the black bear within seconds, and probably 30 seconds, the black bear was dead, but at the same time as it being dead, I was hearing, like, through the bush, through all the sound of the wind and everything, I was hearing, like this tearing, and like, the bear was biting into its fat on its up by its neck, and kind of pushing down with its paws, and it was tearing chunks of flesh out that were 2 feet long of fur and meat and everything else, and just had it tore up in seconds. Like, there was nothing to it.
Yeah, those animals are powerful. We once chased a grizzly bear up a mountain, and it had no problem running straight up a 45-degree mountainside. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. There's a guy that I know that I've done a few jobs for down in Ghost Lake. So he lives in Ghost Lake Village.
Yeah.
He was an avid bike rider, and he was up in Kananaskis country, just bombing hills on his bike, just bike riding around. He was making a day trip is what he was doing, so he went from Ghost Lake to Kananaskis, and then he was coming back. So on his way back home, well, a grizzly bear decided to run him, or chase him, and he was coming downhill, and then he was going back uphill, and so he's going as fast as he can, and on a bike you can do like 60, no problem. Yeah. Like on those kind of highway roads or whatever. Mm-hmm. So this bear is running downhill and through tall grass, and it's chasing him uphill at this point, so he's slowing down on the bicycle, and the bear is getting faster going uphill to close that distance. And the only thing that stopped him was a car kind of got in between him and the bear, and yeah, he jumped into the car, and yeah, it's just crazy, yeah.
I would have crapped my pants, I think, if that happened to me.
oh yeah. Well, he said he had to change his underwear. Yeah. After seeing that, man, I'm not gonna lie, I pretty much had to change my pants.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm not a sweaty guy, but that day I was drenched in sweat, and it wasn't even that hot outside. Like, it was just instantly I was sweating. Instantly every hair was sticking up there. Like, I felt cold. I felt just terrible. And I've never felt that in the bush. Like, never once. But it was something to I don't know how to put it, man. It was definitely strange.
Yep.
But I don't even know if strange is the word. Just unexpected, I think, is more of what it was. It was something that was just different. It was different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I guess I'll let you go for now, Ben. If you want to talk again sometime, just let me know. I'm always down to talk. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, I'll end this phone call because I'm going to use this for the channel there and just put that up so people can listen to it, if you don't mind.
Okay. Will it be on Facebook or?
I'm going to put it on YouTube, and then I'll post it to the Alberta Sasquatch website as well.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
well, talk to you soon.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you at the pub night.
Okay, yeah, I'll try and make it there, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to or not.
Oh, yeah, it's all good.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Yeah, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
You too, man. Bye.
Bye.